I almost threw it away. There it was, a small jar of cloudy, slightly funky-smelling liquid sitting on my kitchen counter, and my first instinct was to dump it down the drain. But I didn't. And what happened next in my garden completely changed the way I think about soil biology forever. This is the story of how fermented rice water, one of the cheapest, most overlooked liquids on the planet, helped me capture billions of indigenous soil microbes, supercharge my garden beds, and bring earthworms flooding to the surface like I'd never seen before. If you've been following the Soil House for a while, you know I love finding simple, low-cost methods that deliver real, measurable results. This one might be the most exciting thing I've shared yet. Before we get into the how, let's talk about the what. The technique I'm referring to is the collection and fermentation of indigenous microorganism cultures, often called IMO in Korean natural farming circles. The process involves using cooked rice as a trap, essentially baiting and capturing wild native microbes right from your own local environment. It's a practice that's been used across Asia for centuries and has been popularized in the West through the work of Korean natural farming practitioners. Here's the beautiful logic behind it. Rice is rich in simple carbohydrates, and microorganisms absolutely love it. When you place cooked rice in a wooden or bamboo box and leave it out in a biologically rich environment, say near a hedgerow, under a mature tree, or at the edge of a forest, the local fungi and bacteria colonize it within days. You're not introducing anything foreign to your garden. You're capturing what's already there, amplifying it, and putting it to work. The reason this matters is deeply tied to a philosophy that runs through everything we do here at the Soil House. Your best fertilizer doesn't come from a bag. It comes from the ground beneath your feet. I'll be honest, my first attempt was a disaster. I used the wrong container, left the rice out too long, and ended up with what I can only describe as a science experiment gone wrong. But failure taught me the details that actually matter, so let me save you the trouble. Start with freshly cooked white rice, nothing fancy, no salt, no butter. Pack it loosely into a wooden box or a bamboo container. The breathability of natural wood matters here because you want airflow, not an airtight seal. Cover the top with a breathable cloth or paper secured with a rubber band to keep insects out while still allowing microbial spores to drift in. Then place your box somewhere biologically active. The edge of a wooded area, beneath an old oak tree, or even in a shaded corner of your garden where the soil is already dark and rich. Leave it for 3 to 7 days depending on your climate. In warmer, humid conditions, you'll see white, sometimes yellow or orange fuzzy mycelium beginning to colonize the rice. That fuzz is your gold. If it smells earthy and slightly sweet, like a forest floor after rain, you're on the right track. If it smells putrid or goes slimy and black, the wrong organisms won. Start again and choose a shadier, more sheltered location. Once your rice is colonized with that beautiful mycelial growth, it's time to activate it into something you can actually use across your whole garden. This is where the fermentation magic really begins. Take your colonized rice and mix it with raw, unpasteurized dairy. Traditionally, this would be fresh milk or whey. The ratio I use is roughly 1 part colonized rice to 10 parts milk. Leave this mixture at room temperature, somewhere between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, for 5 to 7 days. What you'll notice is a natural separation. A yellowish liquid sinks to the bottom, and curds float to the top. That liquid is your liquid IMO. It's absolutely teeming with microbial life, lactobacillus bacteria, beneficial fungi, actinomycetes, and more. Skim off the curds, and these can go into your compost, and what you're left with is something genuinely powerful. To use it, dilute it further. About 1 part IMO liquid to 20 parts water, and apply it directly to your soil. Water your garden beds with it. Spray it at the base of your plants or pour it into your compost pile to accelerate decomposition. For a 4x8 raised bed, I typically use about 2 liters of diluted solution every 2 to 3 weeks during the growing season. Here's where things got exciting, and I mean genuinely. Drop your trowel exciting. Within 2 weeks of my first application to one of my raised beds, I noticed the soil was changing in ways I could feel with my hands. It became fluffier, more crumbly, and when I watered, it drained more evenly. But the moment that really stopped me in my tracks was when I went to transplant some tomato seedlings and found earthworms. Lots of them. In a bed where I had barely seen any the season before. Earthworms don't lie. They don't show up where there's nothing to eat. Their presence told me that the microbial population in that soil had exploded and the food web was coming to life. Microbes feed on organic matter and each other, and earthworms feed on microbes. When you increase microbial diversity and density, you roll out a welcome mat for every beneficial creature in the soil ecosystem. The worms arrived because the dinner table was set. I also started noticing a visible difference in plant health. The tomatoes in that bed were visibly more vigorous than the control bed I'd left untreated. Leaves were a deeper green, flowering started earlier, and by mid-season the yield difference was hard to ignore. I'm not claiming this is a controlled scientific experiment, but 15 years of gardening teaches you to notice things, and what I noticed was undeniable. You might be wondering whether there's any real science backing this up, or whether it's just gardening folklore. The short answer is, there's a growing body of research that supports the core principles, even if Korean natural farming itself hasn't been the subject of widespread peer-reviewed trials. What we do know from soil science is that diverse microbial communities improve soil structure through the production of glomalin and other binding agents. We know that lactobacillus bacteria suppress pathogenic organisms and improve nutrient availability. We know that actinomycetes, one of the organisms commonly captured through this rice method, are responsible for that wonderful earthy smell called petrichor, and they play a critical role in breaking down tough organic material like lignin and cellulose. What Korean natural farming figured out empirically, and what soil science is now beginning to confirm, is that indigenous microorganisms are uniquely adapted to your specific local conditions. They've evolved alongside your native plants, your local climate, your particular soil chemistry. When you capture and amplify them, you're not imposing something foreign. You're reinforcing what belongs there. That's a fundamentally different philosophy from sterilizing your soil and rebuilding it with imported inputs, and I believe it's a more sustainable and ultimately more effective path. The best part about this practice is how naturally it fits into a regular garden rhythm. Once you understand the process, the time investment is minimal, maybe 30 minutes of hands-on work spread across 2 weeks. The cost is almost nothing if you already cook rice and have access to milk. And the results compound over time. Each application adds more diversity to your soil ecosystem. Each season, your soil gets richer, more alive, more productive. At the Soil House, I always say that healthy soil isn't built in a weekend. It's built in a relationship. Every time you feed your microbes, you deepen that relationship. The rice trick isn't a one-time magic cure. It's the beginning of a conversation with your soil. One that, if you keep showing up for it, your garden will reward you for in ways that'll surprise you every single season. Start this weekend. Cook a cup of rice, set it out under your biggest tree, and see what your land has to offer. If this article opened your eyes to the incredible world happening beneath your feet, you're going to love what we're sharing over on the YouTube channel. Head over to the Soil House and hit subscribe. We go deep on soil biology, Korean natural farming, composting, and all the low-cost, high-impact methods that actually move the needle in your garden. If you found this useful, share it with a fellow gardener. The more of us who tend to the soil this way, the better this planet gets. One garden at a time.